Sam, welcome to our show, Confession of a Futurist with Sanjeev Goyal.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, Sam, I heard you're writing a new book. Would you mind telling us what is it about?
Well, I've written a book called Redesign.
It's already published. I thought it's still in the press.
No, it's already printed. It is going to be released on 26th of April.
Nice.
By Penguin. There'll be simultaneous release in India, UK, and US. And it'll be also available on all online media.
Digital platform. Nice.
Like Amazon and everybody. And this idea has been with me for several years. And finally, COVID-19 gave me an opportunity to lock myself up, do a little more research, some more reading, crystallize my thinking. And it gave me a whole year to write a book.
So when we talk about hyperconnectivity, when we talk about the world, you were into public services and you're still technically in public services for more than 4 decades. And someone like me, when I look at the world and I look at the way we govern our world, it seems like we are running our world with the systems and the processes we built 400 years ago, not even 40 years ago. Especially in the last 50 years, our world has completely transformed.
Exactly.
And I am not seeing any dialogue around how do you even put people and think about if we govern the way we are governing today, it's not going to work. It's not even just talking about sustainability. It's not talking about economy only. It's just, we can't run the world the way we are running it today.
That is what the book is all about. For example, you take our organizational architecture everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's in vertical silos. Ministry of Education. It should be horizontal.
Has to
and
be.
Not what Ministry of Health. Everything is in vertical silos. That organizational architecture is not in tune with hyperconnectivity.
Not
you
just
look at how we elect people. No, you look at how we elect people.
Yeah, exactly.
The voting, the booth management, corruption, confusion, and then you send a man or a woman to represent you to Washington.
And hope
that was okay 100 years ago. But today, I can go online and represent my thoughts. Okay?
Exactly.
I can be active participant in democracy online all the time. So does it make sense for me to send a representative from here who is constantly busy raising money to get elected?
Hope he has my best interest. Hope.
Exactly.
And hope is not a strategy. We both saw it.
This whole thing is about rethinking through.
Exactly.
Okay? With hyperconnectivity today, we are all interconnected.
And interdependent, because what you do impacts me. And I never thought, Sam, before COVID or pre-COVID, and I travel a lot. I have been speaking into 5+ continents, all of that. It's just phenomenal. COVID has just changed my whole paradigm and my whole understanding of the world. I never thought we are so connected.
And hyperconnectivity is going to allow us many more opportunities to do things on our own. So you take a big insurance company, let's say in Mumbai, where you have 5,000 people in the heart of Mumbai filling in all the forms and clerks. Those clerks could be in a little village in India.
True.
Okay, so the now income can move from urban to rural with hyperconnectivity. So decentralization is all about decentralizing production. Okay. So we need to take production out in rural areas and not keep in urban areas only, because we meaning the whole world. Because today, urban areas have infrastructure, power, housing, entertainment. Now, entertainment is on this, education is on this, health is on this. and I can do work on this. So there is no problem in my living 50 miles away from a city. So I think decentralization is going to be the key going forward. Empowering farmers with new technology, new seeds will improve their productivity. Okay. Agriculture productivity with new technology, including AI, satellite imagery, geohydrological surveys, access to market for farmers, all that is going to be critical. Same with water, same with small traders. Okay. So decentralization of production to build new economy.
Yeah.
Going to be a challenge. Okay. Today, we think scale brings efficiency.
That's the popular belief.
That's not true anymore. You can take small factories and network them to scale, because technology allows you to network. You take today's car. Today's car design is done in one place. Assembly is done in some other place. Parts come from 20 different countries, and it is sold in some other country.
Yeah, so true.
So when I drive my car, I realize that it's a product of 20 countries.
I mean, I was surprised when I found out GM still makes cars in India, but they are not selling in Indian market. They are selling everywhere else, which was very interesting to me. So
I think this whole business of globalization and localization has to be seen in new light. Globalization is not against localization, and localization is not against globalization. Today, we think that these are two ends, but there is great connections. But the biggest thing that has happened in the last 30 years is that manufacturing has been taken over by China completely.
Yeah.
And there, I think we need to understand that Chinese government used their authoritarian power in a very creative way. One, to bring millions of people from rural communities to live in bunkers in cities, which no other democratic countries can do.
True.
And they control technology transfer to a point. Multinationals had to give in technology to them so they could build their base.
True.
So in this hope to get access to Chinese market, a lot of manufacturers gave technology, didn't realize that China will turn around and become their competitor overnight.
I've seen it. In fact, in early 2000, I almost bought a company which was offshoot of Cisco, and similar story. But the point to say is there are no manufacturing jobs in the world. World needs to bring those manufacturing jobs back in their part of the world. How do you do that? Okay, you cannot do that if you just look at cost and efficiency and productivity. Okay, you also need to look at well-being of the people. Yeah.
So if I produce one little product somewhere which is 10% cheaper somewhere else, I can't just move. Because if I move, I destroy livelihood of local people.
True. Now, I do agree, Sam, with that. So let's talk a little bit more about inclusion. You talk a lot about inclusion in your book too, and go a little deeper in the inclusion. So inclusion is a very, I personally feel inclusion is it's a very complex topic. How do you create a society where society is not based on the entitlement, but at the same time, everybody has right to live, right to have a quality of life? I completely in favor of that. So how do you create a society like that? Because when we talk about equality, it looks like almost like social equity. And you can't do that because there is a challenge, because it has to, if somebody is putting more efforts, somebody is taking pain, somebody is working 18 hours a day, somebody is doing whatever he can, somebody is assembling people, there should be some reward. Otherwise, like in some other countries, it doesn't.
Don't expect reward always in terms of financial gains.
Completely agree with that. Completely.
So let's look at this on a broader sort of
in a broader spectrum.
First of all, if you look at the history of the world, you will find that all wars have roots in exclusion.
Agree.
People fought because they were not included. You look at our Israel conflict, it is because Palestine people are not included. Period. You look at violence that is going on right now in the US. Every 2 weeks, there is shooting going on. You look at Black Lives Matter. Okay, you look at the case that just went on, in the court. Okay. It says people are discriminated. Go to India, Harijan can't go into a temple. Okay. Women are not included in many parts of the world and don't get equal treatment. So
Even
human
America,
history is
it is
full
like
of. So the human history is full of exclusion.
True.
And inclusion comes from within. I have to learn to respect other human beings.
True.
I have to give them dignity in my own way. Okay.
Yeah.
People have to be welcomed. Just because you speak different language, you look different, you're different color, you follow different religion, that doesn't mean anything. I have to celebrate global diversity.
True.
At the end of the day, we all came from Africa.
Yeah, so true.
At the end of the day, we were all dark black. At the end of the day, we looked like monkey at one time.
Yeah, 1% better than monkeys. Even today, it's
So let's just put things in perspective. That we are all human beings.
True.
And if we treat everybody with respect, dignity, we will plant right seeds for inclusion.
So Sam, you and me are engineer, right? So when we are engineer, we always think of how to do it, because to me and you, it's not like shades of gray. It's 0 and 1. So my question from you is, I'm on the board of several companies and including non-profits. Give me ideas, how can I do that within my own organizations or organization I'm involved in?
First, you have to genuinely respect other human beings.
That's given.
Give them equal opportunity. Give them same set of opportunity that other people have. Okay, whether it's men or women, same salary for, all genders.
Perfect. Makes sense.
That's just in corporate world. But world is not about corporate world.
No.
World is about social fabric. Yeah. How we treat other people on the street, in the markets, If we don't treat, for example, in India, there is a big thing going on about Hindu-Muslim. Okay. We don't realize that there are 200 million Muslims in India. That's part of Indian fabric. They are India. You can't discriminate them. They are part of me. Okay. I'm their brother. They are my cousins. Okay.
Absolutely.
You got to start thinking that way. Just because they eat different, they pray different, does not mean anything. I must respect that. Genuinely respect that.
Absolutely.
Okay. So inclusion implies that it is not just about work, that you go at 8 o'clock and come back at 5 and you're at the same desk.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
True.
Okay. So I think inclusion is the fundamental issue. Most democracies are not inclusive. We have to really build inclusive society everywhere. We need to really now create a platform which treats everybody equally. We can produce anything. We have to decide what we want to produce. But you see, best brains in the world are busy solving problems of the rich who don't have problems to solve. As a result, problems of the poor don't get the right talent. We need to take IIT talents. If you look at IIT, we have created $1 trillion industry and all. But what are IIT guys solving? They're basically solving Western problems.
Yeah, shipping packages for FedEx.
No, but solving Western problems. Okay.
True.
If that IIT talent, worked on the Indian farm and for Indian, districts and Indian agriculture and Indian, schools and Indian colleges, it will change the face of India. But they see financial opportunity somewhere else. So they've gone somewhere else and we are all party to that. Okay.
Yeah, we both understand. And, I grew up there, and the challenge is always like, where do you say, okay, how much can I take it and how much I'm going to give for that? So
exactly,
it's always a challenge. And
so inclusion also ties in with how you structure your production. Inclusion also ties in with your education. Education has to be inclusive. Health service has to be inclusive. Governments have to be inclusive. Okay. And sometimes when you try to build inclusive society, you have to give in something more.
So let's talk about the economy, because there is a chapter you have devoted on the economy, and that is the most important topic today, because none of us know where the economy is going. You talk about demonetization. We are talking about crypto to Bitcoin to 100 other instruments today, and now it's just NFTs and all. It's just such a chaos. Now, I like this democratization. I like this decentralization, but that creates movement, and movement cannot create order. Movements are important so we can boil and we can bring the whole society together, and we all agree on how we are going to govern our world. But in the end, we need some structure. So what is your take on our world 20 years from now, 2050, let's take it, that how it look like, how the fabric look like, even from just economic perspective? I know it's a loaded question because I'm expecting you to do visualize 20 years, but you have changed, and you were one of the key guy who has made these changes in the last 40 years. So I'm pretty sure you can see 20 years from now.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you some of my ideas, and I would be happy to share it openly.
Please.
Let's take just the self-driven car. Let's take one example.
Exactly.
Okay. When self-driven car becomes reality in 20 years, which will become reality perhaps in 5 or 10.
Yeah, max.
First of all, I won't own a car. Because I can order a car from my cell phone. Why should I own a car?
Absolutely.
Okay. If I don't own a car, I don't need car insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need driver's license. I don't need to pay for my road tax.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I don't need 4-car garage.
Yes.
Today, car is a status symbol.
True.
I don't need 4-car garage. Why do I need 4 cars? Okay. Take one step further.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need parking place in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So every downtown will have millions of square feet of space empty.
True. So true.
Take another step forward. Today, we produce 50 million cars a year.
Mm-hmm.
Car is driven only less than 10% of the time. 90% of the time, car is parked.
Yeah.
8 hours at night, you just go for an hour and come back for an hour. Okay. Sometimes you don't drive for 2-3 days. Okay. So rather than producing 50 million cars, I'll be producing 5 million cars a year.
Sure.
My steel production will go down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My jobs will be eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All the 5 million cars will be produced by robots.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you take all of these ideas, whether it is self-driven car or energy production, today energy production is centralized.
Yeah.
You put energy in a power plant, you have big these wires to distribute. By the time it comes home, only 20% is useful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a battery in the back of my house, which will power my house completely 100%. According to me, a respectable, dignified, quality, simple life. Okay. And we won't have to work 40 hours a week. We'll work 20 hours a week and there'll be enough to live comfortably because food would be cheaper. Okay. And we will have more time to explore this world, to do kind of things you and I are doing today.
True.
A broader conversation, travel, explore the world, go see the ocean, take some scuba diving lessons, learn shallow, which you want to learn, okay? And you will have, I see that. And you will have all the time to enjoy life.
True. That's
see, we have been working hard to make living. And future is going to be such that you will make living and you will also have time to enjoy life.
I do see the quality of life improving for average Joe. And I personally see a world 20 years from now, everything will get to a point where living will be almost free because the cost of producing things will be pretty minuscule. I'm completely
demonetization.
Yeah.
Look, Uber demonetized transportation.
Absolutely.
Okay. And all the e-governance, e-retail, okay, demonetized shopping experience. Okay, so a lot of these things are already happening. I see a day where you won't need $200,000 to get an MBA from Ivy League. I can learn all the management lessons from people like you who have built companies and not just a professor.
True.
Okay. I would rather learn from people who have experience, and it will be zero cost to get an MBA.
True.
Or maybe $500. I may not get the certificate from Ivy League, but that's okay. All right. Education is going to be transformed to a point you are going to make me self-learner.
100%.
See, for education, you really need three things. Motivation. If I'm motivated to learn something, I can always learn. Second, time. Am I willing to devote time required to learn something?
True.
And third, content. Content is available on the internet.
Absolutely.
Can I devote time to learn? Okay. If I want to know how to make wine, I can just go on internet and learn how to make wine. I don't need to take a course on wine and pay $5,000 for a course.
Absolutely.
It may not be 100%. That's okay. Health. Before COVID-19, I had to normally go to my doctor, who is in Naperville, which is another 15 miles from here. So I'll get an appointment, come at 2:00.
Mm-hmm.
So I get out of my work, get in the car, drive, park there, go to his office, sit there for 2 hours, 1 hour sometimes, okay? And then he'll come and see and say, open your tongue, let's check your blood pressure, let's check your weight. And then he'll say, okay, you're okay. Now, I do it on cell phone. I call him, I don't go there, okay? Unless it is so critical.
Yeah.
And in last 7 visits with my doctor has been on
online.
WhatsApp online, and he looks at his, okay, Sam, that's a little bump. This is what happened. Just go get this, and I'm done. Look at the efficiency. Look at the amount of driving I avoid, time. But that was the old method. You assume that you have to go to a doctor, half a day is gone.
And for people like you who are highly productive, it's not just the cost of doing it, is what you could have produced in half a day. You may have,
even if you have not produced, you just relax yourself.
Yeah, but that's also production.
And have a great cup of tea. That's good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough. At least you pleasure yourself.
Exactly. Because I don't want to measure everything in terms of productivity. I don't want to measure everything in terms of cost. That you saved something, you gained something. Mm-hmm. See, the mindset today is transactional.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a transaction.
True.
When you meet somebody, the first question is, what would I get out of this person?
Mm-hmm.
How can I make money out of this person?
True.
Or I can get knowledge out of this person.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to give in? You got to get away from transactional mentality.
True. So true.
You got to get into a relationship. We don't have transactional mentality with our parents, with our children. It's all about giving. If we can just
growing up, we didn't have it. Even growing up, we didn't have it.
Expand that to larger community. World would be much better.
I so agree with you. No, I just love this conversation, Sam. I can talk to you for hours. I'm so glad you wrote this book. I will wait to get my copy and I'll send it for your signature. I'll take your address later.
It will be available from 26th on Amazon.
Perfect. I'm going to order my copy today.
It's simple book. It's only 250 pages. It's not very complicated. It's not written for intellectuals. It is written for younger people.
I travel a lot. If I come to Chicago, I will reach out to you.
Please come and we'll have dinner together.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.